Welcome to the Investing Tutorial YouTube channel, where we navigate the complex world of finances and investments to empower you with knowledge. In today's episode, we delve into a critical topic, the middle class trap, and why hard work alone won't make you rich. Join us as we unravel the layers of financial strategies and explore the mindset shifts necessary to break free from common misconceptions. Get ready for insightful discussions that will reshape your approach to wealth building. Let's embark on this journey together towards financial prosperity. Subscribe now for valuable insights and make informed investment decisions. Poor mindset. People think about how rich people think. One day, a metal company named ABC Industries, based in China, primarily selling metal in the United States, faced a challenge. In 2018, Donald Trump was the president of the United States and did not want American companies buying goods from China. He imposed a 25% import duty on anything coming from China to the USA. This news frightened Paul because all his customers were in the USA. If he didn't buy goods from China, he wondered where else he could source them. This situation could lead to significant losses for the company, possibly causing it to go bankrupt. Finally, the solution emerged that Paul had to shift manufacturing to India. However, he was unsure how to establish such a large manufacturing plant in India quickly. Initially, he had no knowledge about India. First, he started questioning how to set up a manufacturing plant in India. Then he asked a powerful question to himself: who can help me? To open a manufacturing plant in India, Paul faced three challenges. First, shifting manufacturing to India. Second, acquiring land for the manufacturing plant. And third, finding a reliable steel supplier. His answer to all three questions was not how. He decided not to do this himself, but to find someone who could help him with these three things. Therefore, Paul connected with an Indian friend who introduced him to a major Indian industrialist. They provided Paul with a list of available plots, and within a few days, Paul selected and purchased one. Afterward, Paul hired a retired president of an Indian supply company as a consultant. With his experience, Paul quickly found high-quality suppliers. Imagine if we were in Paul's place and tried to establish a plant in another country by ourselves. It might have taken us several years, and still, we may not have set up a high-quality plant. But Paul asked a strong question: not how. He didn't want to do it himself. Instead, he wanted to find a person who could help him in these three things. So within just 5 months, Paul started a production plant in India. Within 18 months, his company is generating 25% revenue from India. The second point is that rich mindset people focus on results, not efforts. This is Richie's story, who, at the age of 16, decided to work somewhere. Richie belonged to a middle-class family and told his dad that he wanted to earn his own money to spend on himself. His dad said, "It's good that you want to be financially independent, but what will you do?" Richie said he had talked to his friend, who promised to get him a job at a jute shop. But Richie's dad was wise. He knew that his son was focusing on hard work, not results. So he advised Richie not to take that job and suggested buying watermelon from nearby farms. At that time, there were many watermelon farms with excess produce, and the farmers would throw away the slightly imperfect watermelons. So Richie bought these watermelons at a very cheap price. Afterward, he called potential buyers from the local phone book, telling them he had delicious and fresh watermelons at a much lower price than in supermarkets. In just a few hours, Richie earned as much money as he couldn't have earned working for months in the grocery store. The essence of Richie's story was about making money, where Richie focused on increasing efforts, and he was prepared to work for several months. On the other hand, his dad, an entrepreneur, suggested the approach of achieving maximum results with minimum efforts. Now, as Richie focused on results, not the process, he achieved maximum earnings in just a few hours. This story illustrates the value of time and the mindset of focusing on results rather than efforts. The next point is about rich mindset people, focusing on increasing results and not efforts. This story is about Johnny, who, at the age of 16, decided to work and contribute financially to his middle-class family. Initially planning to become a musician, parental pressure led him to join a management company. However, when he found a job in the tourism industry, he discovered a passion for it. In 2013, he started his own tourism company, working tirelessly and building a network with customers. Realizing the need to expand online, he attempted to build a website, but eventually sought help from a web developer, paying a small amount. Despite the exhaustion, he valued his time more than the money spent. At a later stage, he hired a manager for his sales team, offering a higher salary, and within a year, the company's profit increased by 25%. Learning from his experiences, Johnny realized the importance of focusing on his main business rather than neglecting it in pursuit of creating a website. His life changed as he made one decision after another. In summary, the story emphasizes the need to recognize when efforts are not adding value and the importance of focusing on the primary business for success. If they had hired this manager, they could have earned 14 to 15 million pounds, and their company would have become quite large. So the learning from this story is that we also need to realize that we should not be in a situation where we are competing with mindset people. Colbet author has a client named Mark who has been trying for the past 10 years to write a biography on her grandmother. Her grandmother was quite famous in the United States, being a civil rights activist. Mark knew that many people wanted to hear her story, but there was a problem. Mark had no experience in writing a book. Despite putting a lot of effort into it for several years, his progress was slow. Additionally, being a lawyer made him extremely busy, leaving him with little time for writing his grandmother's biography. One day, Mark received a call that made him rethink his situation. On the other end was Dr. Ethelyn, a famous author and a history professor at the University of Wisconsin. Dr. Ethelyn mentioned that she was also writing a biography on Mark's grandmother and had already written 100 pages. She needed additional information from Mark to complete the biography. Initially hesitant to share information, Mark was concerned that if he shared all his grandmother's stories, Dr. Ethelyn might publish the biography before her. When Mark shared this problem with the author suggested that instead of competing, Mark should collaborate with Dr. Ethelyn. The author explained that Mark knew his grandmother's entire life stories, which he could provide in audio form. Collaborating with Dr. Ethelyn would be better than competing, and together, they could complete the book. Mark, who had been focusing solely on how to write the book herself, finally shifted his focus to collaboration with Dr. Ethelyn. In fact, this book was completed in just 1 year, and many people liked it because of Dr. Ethelyn's excellent writing style, and due to Mark, new stories about his grandmother became known. In contrast, if I share my story, a few days ago in New York, 2 founders of a startup were fighting so badly just because one of them wanted 55% of the company, which means 5% more than the other. The main point is that if one founder had agreed to this, the startup would have lasted at least 10 years, and the other's desire for that extra 5% would always linger. Most probably, the startup would end before becoming one. This is a sign of a poor mindset. Next point comes that rich mindset people define their goals and communicate it too. In 1980, a boy named Lars joins a high school in California. Lars was very shy and introverted, but he loved playing the drums. The way Lars dressed made his schoolmates laugh at him. Lars wanted to have some musician friends with whom he could create new types of music. Unfortunately, Lars couldn't find anyone willing to collaborate, so he decided to go to a newspaper agency called The Recycle. There he placed an ad in which he mentioned that he was a drummer and looking for musicians interested in creating music together. The only reply he received was from a guy named James. James, like Lars, was very shy in the beginning, and initially they couldn't establish contact with each other. But finally, they slowly became very good friends because both loved music so much, and consequently, they went on to create a legendary brand named Malika, which has sold more than 10 million albums to date. The learning from this story is that, like Lars, we also need to do 2 things. First, he defined his clear goal, which was collaborating with other musicians, and the second learning is that he communicated his goal clearly. That is, he placed an ad in the newspaper, clearly stating that he is a drummer and looking for another musician. If Lars hadn't done this, he would have never found James, and hence, the Metallica band would never have formed. All these stories we are sharing with you are from Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book, Who Not How. Let me share two more amazing stories related to this book. Look, after writing this book, Dr. Benjamin Hardy wanted to promote it. For this, he used to send emails to almost all podcasters for about 7 hours every day. He would talk to the podcasters' assistants and finally secure podcast interviews. Now, the interesting part was that after managing the meetings, when he actually gave interviews in the podcasts, he felt so exhausted that he couldn't even provide a good answer. Then he realized that he wasn't following the rule he was writing about in his book. He questioned who could help him in this work, and he got a friend's number who needed a job. Hardy made him his assistant and said that if he could connect him with 500 podcasters this year, he would pay his college fees. The assistant was thrilled, and he arranged meetings with almost 527 podcasters in just 1 year. This significantly boosted the book's popularity, and it's available on Amazon. Not only that, an interesting fact is that the idea for this book was not actually Benjamin Hardy's but Dan Sullivan's, a business coach. He teaches this concept to business owners, and he didn't write the book himself. He found Dr. Benjamin Hardy, convinced him to write the book, and told him that both their names would be on it. Benjamin Hardy became a best-selling author, and he still earns a commission every time the book is sold. In conclusion, in this video, we have seen a total of 5 learnings. The first point was that poor mindsets think how, rich mindsets think what. In this, we saw Paul's story of how he quickly opened a plant in India when the import tax duty increased in America, not because of how, but because of what. The next point was to focus on increasing results and not efforts. In this, we saw Richie's story of how he earned more money by selling watermelons compared to working in grocery shop. Then we saw the next point, which was that rich mindset people value time. In this, we saw Kyle's story of how initially he started building websites himself, but later realized it's best for him to hire someone for website development. Next, we saw the point of don't compete, collaborate. In this, we saw the author Mark's story of how he, along with Dr. Ethelene, collaborated to write her grandmother's biography.